Good evening, trustees, staff, and the member of the public who are joining our January 13, 2026 Public Learning, Equity, and Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting. This meeting is called to order. The chair will recognize Trustee Wright to do the land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We affirm that we are all treaty people and acknowledge the York Region District School Board is located on the lands of 2 treaties. These treaties have been signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the First Nations of the Williams Treaties, who are the Mississaugas of Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Scugog Island, and the Chippewas of Beausoleil, Rama, and Georgina Island, who is our closest neighbor and partner in education. To honor this agreement, we will take up our responsibility to be responsible for their traditions, knowledge, and inherent rights as sovereign nations. We will recognize their relationship with these lands and recognize that our connection to this land is through the continued relationship with these First Nations, and we acknowledge our shared responsibility to respect and care for the land and waters for future generations.
Thank you, Trustee Wright. Approval of the agenda. Without objection, the agenda as presented shall be adopted. Is there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, without objections, the agenda is adopted. Declaration of a conflict of interest. At this time, the chair would ask any trustee who has a direct personal interest or direct or indirect pecuniary interest in any matter being discussed by the board during this meeting to state the conflict and nature thereof. Seeing and hearing none. Approval of the minutes. The minutes of the November 18, 2025 Learning, Equity, and Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting have been distributed to all trustees. Are there any correction to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, as there are no corrections, the minutes are approved as presented. Community delegation. Tonight, there's one committee delegation before the committee. The chair would like to take the time to remind the committee and our guest of our rules. All delegates and committee members shall use respectful language and shall not disturb the decorum of the meeting. With respect to the decorum of this meeting, the chair would like to make clear to all members, delegates, and attendees that some of the following items will be considered by the chair to disturb the decorum of the meeting. If any of the following occur tonight, the member will be removed and we will move on. 1. Members, delegates, and attendees may not attack the motive of the others. One may speak about why their position should be followed, but one may not attack the motive of the others. One may not use foul language. One may not use hateful language, and that is meant to belittle, demean, or in any other way put down others. If one across the line, the chair will have them removed from this meeting. 2. The maximum amount of time for each delegation in respective of the total number of delegates is 10 minutes. A clock providing for the time as it elect shall be on the screen. Members shall now speak after their time elects. 3. Trustees and student trustees in attendance at the meeting may ask questions of clarification following the delegation's presentation. Debate or questions that are not clarifying in nature are out of order and shall not be permitted. When the delegation answer a question of a clarification, they shall only answer the question that was asked. 4, speaking time for questions from each trustee and student trustees shall now exceed 3 minutes per delegation submission, regardless of the number of delegates. Members shall now speak after their time elapses. This means that if you are seeking to ask a question of a clarification, you only have one opportunity to do so. And please ensure that your question is concise enough to allow the delegation to respond. As is the custom of the board, the time includes both the question and answer from the delegate. And delegation are reminded that the content of this meeting, including their delegation, is a part of a public record and will be accessible to the public and is a part of a public recording of this meeting. This evening, the delegation before the committee is from Michael Austin. Michael, the chair recognizes you to provide your delegation. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you for allowing the delegation tonight. So tonight I'm speaking to you as a parent from Georgina, and I'm deeply concerned about the proposal to remove busing from secondary students enrolled in specialized programming in Newmarket. I fully understand the board's interest in creating equitable transportation practices by encouraging students who live near YRT services to use public transit. I appreciate the spirit of this approach, however, it does not reflect the realities that translate to the northern part of York Region. For students in Keswick, Sutton, Jackson's Point, the current YRT travel times to Newmarket High School are simply not comparable to those in more urban areas. For example, my child would need to begin their commute around 6 a.m. and remain on the bus for approximately 99 minutes. Students living further north would need to board as early as 5:30 a.m. with travel times exceeding 115 minutes. These expectations are not realistic for teenagers, particularly in winter months when they must decide whether to travel long before weather-related cancellations are announced. Extended travel times would also reduce students' after-school opportunities, including part-time employment, volunteer work, extracurricular involvement, and community engagement, experiences that are crucial for their growth, well-being, and post-secondary readiness. I want to emphasize that my family could not be more satisfied with the education and support my child receives at Newmarket High School. The teachers have been exceptional, the school community has positively shaped his mental health and well-being, and he's developed friendships and confidences that are invaluable. We have no desire to change his school placement. We simply hope that transportation remains accessible, reliable, and reasonable so that his educational experiences and those of many others in Georgina can continue. If the board ultimately determines that the YRT must become the primary mode of transit, I respectfully will just ask that collaboration with YRT to ensure that there's a creation of dedicated school specialty routes. These routes must be within a safe and reasonable walking distance for students and must come with a clear commitment that they will remain in place for the long term. The YRDSB's Equity and Inclusive Education Strategy identifies 7 guiding principles that shape decision-making across the system, and I ask you to consider this proposal through that lens. So does a 90 to 150-minute commute support a foundation of excellence? Does requiring teenagers to board transit before 6 a.m. meet their needs? Does this approach identify and eliminate barriers, or does it create new ones? Will students lose access to after-school opportunities, still feel that sense of belonging? Does this decision involve and reflect the needs of the broad community, including those in the northern part of the region? Does it build on or enhance the exceptional programming offered at Newmarket High School and Huron Heights? Is a transit expectation that differs so dramatically across the region truly demonstrated equity through the system? As a parent, I'm simply asking that the board uphold these guiding principles when making decisions about transportation for Georgina students. We want our children to continue to access high-quality education that they are currently receiving without facing unreasonable travel times that would compromise their well-being and success. I understand that there's a presentation right after this, which sort of talks about how this decision is being put on hold for a year. My only hope is that we're not back in this same spot July, August 2027, having to reconsider this situation again. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for allowing the delegation to present and listen to these concerns, because they are real and they're reflective of the realities of families in Georgina. So thank you very much. If there's questions, I'll take them.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, so trustees, are there any questions of a clarification? So trustee, Butterworth.
Thank you. First of all, it's more just a statement. I'm going to add Pefferlaw to your list as well of communities that are affected by this. So farthest north community that our board serves. And I want to thank you for your time and sharing your concerns. I definitely agree, because I represent that area, that you've captured the needs and challenges of living in Northern York Region. I firmly believe that busing is integral for our students to access the wonderful programs that we have in our board. And as you said, thank you for your compliments for the program at Newmarket High, for the program and staff at Newmarket High, greatly appreciated. Just for the other trustees, our students are traveling across 2 municipalities to access these programs. So these aren't programs that are in their communities, these are programs outside of their community. And the busing is important, so I'm glad we were able to put it off for a year so that our families can continue to access these programs. And that includes French immersion and arts and so on for Huron Heights as well. So thank you for your time and coming out in this weather too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Butterworth. So any other trustee? Okay, so without objection, the committee shall receive the presentation for the information. Is there any objection? Okay, seeing and hearing none. So without objection, the presentation is received for information. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Board reports. Student transformation services in Georgina services area of York Region. Before the committee is the student transportation services in Georgina services area of a York Region's report. It is here for our information. The chair recognizes the Associate Director of Education and Chief Financial Officer, Service Excellent Vidya Maharaj, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report is before the committee tonight in response to a motion at the November 18th Lucy Committee by Trustee Butterworth requesting staff to investigate transportation in the northern region of the board for specialty regional programs such as arts, athletics, and French immersion. And at the December 9th board meeting, added to that motion was a request for information around implementing a transportation zone for the Georgina area. So this report addresses both of those requests. With regard to the regional program transportation for Huron Heights and Newmarket, as was indicated in the report in our conversations with YRT, in the absence of being able to have a school special route and providing additional transportation for September 2026 in order to accommodate our students from the north getting to these programs, the decision to maintain the current transportation that's provided was made, and so the current transportation will continue through the 26-27 school year. Sorry, just had to think about the years. And we will continue having those conversations with YRT, as was just alluded to by the delegate and in previous delegations that we've received. Our board's transportation policy does have ride times, et cetera, and we are bound to abide by that. So until we can have transportation provided by YRT, which allows us to stay within our policy, we are not moving to make any changes to the transportation that's currently provided. So that's part one. Part two, with regard to transportation zones for weather-related incidents, as was verbally provided to the board in December and now before the board in the written report, we have moved to implement a transportation zone that we're calling the Georgina zone, which is the area north of Ravenshoe. We did have to use a physical demarcation, and the reason for that is because the routes themselves remain intact, but in an instance where there's inclement weather in the northern area of the board, only the portion of that bus route above or north of Ravenshoe would be canceled. The rest of the route would continue to operate. And that's why we had to have a specific demarcation. Other boards, for example, use Highway 7. For us, we're using what would be the equivalent in terms of Ravenshoe. This is a pilot until March as we work out some of the kinks around making sure drivers can access where their buses are depoted, et cetera, and working with our operators, because this is a change in the operating contracts that we have in place with our operators. And we will revisit it in March. This is not to say that the zones won't be expanded, et cetera, et cetera. They may end up changing, but for the portion of the school year, January to March, we're looking at the portion of our region north of Ravenshoe. We're calling that the Georgina area. That has been communicated to parents and students who would be impacted, and happy to take any questions that trustees may have. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you. So thank you, Vidya, to providing the report. Trustees, are there any questions? Okay, so Trustee Butterworth.
Thank you very much, Chair, and through you. So thank you, AD Maharaj. So you already alluded to it because that was one of my questions. Potentially adding more zones if needed. So is that what you're looking at right now? In addition to our Georgina and then the rest of YRDSB, there's the potential then that we could be adding another zone because, let's say, East Gwillimbury, for example, I'm hearing from them in terms of why aren't we in the Georgina zone, and I've hopefully been clear in why. But you know, I said this is a pilot, so we are looking at the potential of adding more zones, and that could come as early as March, if potentially, not 100%, correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, if we look at extending or adding zones, it would be for September 2027.
Right. Yeah.
Because we didn't have time to reconfigure routes, et cetera, what we have done, and this was part, I think, of the historical conversation around additional costs to creating zones, is we would normally have taken a tact where we would isolate bus routes so they were only in specific regions. What we've done is left the routes intact as they are and just said in the event of a cancellation, let's say the route runs north-south, only the northernmost part of the route is canceled, that bus route and the bus driver, the same bus, continues the route. To start adding areas like East Gwillimbury, Mount Albert, that's going to require some more time. It wasn't going to be as clean to come up with physical demarcations and communicate that. That is going to take some more time and study. We're also going to look during the period of January to March, when we have weather systems, what are the other areas that are impacted and are there clear pockets? So that's going to take some work. If we do add zones, it would not be until at the earliest September 2027, because that's going to take a lot more work.
Got you. So it's being looked at. That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So any other Trustee Wright?
I just have a quick question out of curiosity. If I live in the Georgina service area and my bus is running south of Ravenshoe and I want to go to school, can I get on the bus? No.
So we considered that for safety reasons, and because it's really important that our drivers only pick up York Region students, and they pick them up at the spots, and they drop them off at the spots. I understand for secondary students, maybe not as much a concern, but we would have very serious concerns for our elementary students. And from a risk perspective, what we've said is students have to embark and disembark at their scheduled stops. So a parent driving from Georgina into Newmarket to pick up the route, we wouldn't encourage or allow that, just from the risk perspective.
And just a quick follow-up, if it's canceled, it's canceled. We're doing that for the entire day, right? So if a parent decides to drive them to Newmarket, it's their responsibility to get them back home. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the chair recognized the director to speak, to ask questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to share a commentary. We recognize we're going to receive a lot of feedback through this pilot process. But what I do want to say is thank you to AD Maharaj for the incredible work with our co-terminus board and our transportation services providers, because we've all talked about something like this for decades. And we had the event, the snow event in late November, and a matter of weeks, days really, and then weeks, under the leadership of AD Maharaj and Niall and our Catholic partners, we were able to come forward with this. So AD Maharaj, thank you for your incredible work on dealing with this matter and your leadership to be where we are, where this report is before us this evening. So I just wanted to recognize that, Madam Chair, and recognize AD Maharaj for the incredible work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So any other trustees? Okay, seeing and hearing none, so we move to next item. So multi-year accessibility plan 2025 to 2030. Before the committee is a multi-year accessibility plan 2025-2030 report. The chair recognized the senior human right advisor, Chloe Lester, to present this report. Thank you, Chloe.
Perfect, thank you so much. So we are asking for the review of the multi-year accessibility plan. This is a new plan that has been updated from the previous 5 years, and this will span the years 2025 to 2030. So the purpose of the multi-year accessibility plan document is to outline the organization's long-term strategies for preventing and removing barriers to accessibility and ensuring compliance with the integrated accessibility standards regulation under the Accessibility for Ontarios with Disabilities Act. So this multi-year accessibility plan, or I'll call it the MYAP for short, also establishes a framework for monitoring progress, gathering feedback, and publishing an annual report as well. So how we developed this plan, well, under the Accessibility for Ontarios with Disabilities Act, the board is required to prepare and post publicly a multi-year accessibility plan. This plan must outline strategies to prevent and remove barriers and meet certain accessibility requirements. Public sector organizations like ourselves must consult with persons with disabilities and the Accessibility Advisory Committee during the development and the review of the process of this plan. And this plan must be updated every 5 years. So to create this multi-year accessibility plan, we began by benchmarking against other school boards and designated public sector organizations. We consulted with our Accessibility Advisory Committee and individuals with disabilities to ensure their voices were included. Feedback from union groups were integrated into this plan, and departments collaborated to set meaningful goals. This collaborative approach ensured that the plan reflects the needs and priorities of our entire community. The MYEP was created while keeping in mind our multi-year strategic plan goals, and by increasing our accessibility efforts within YRDSB, it helps to improve our customer service excellence by promoting best practices that give meaningful access to our working and learning environments for all students and staff, and including those with disabilities. So the implementation and the monitoring of the plan will be carried through the Accessibility Committee, which includes trustee representative, Trustee Butterworth, PIAC, SEAC chairs, union representatives, and various departments. So we'll continue to gather feedback through Barrier Buster reports, which is an accessibility reporting tool, human rights cases that come through, and surveys, just like our Every Student Count survey and our workforce census surveys. Progress and achievements will be published annually in our accessibility report. So this process ensures accountability and continuous improvement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so any trustee have any questions? Seeing and hearing none. The recommendation contains on page 15 of the agenda package is here for adoption. The Learning, Equity, and Wellbeing Standing Committee, YRDSB, is asked to review and approve the following multi-year accessibility plan 2025-2030 for implementation and publication on the board web page. Without objection, the recommendation as read by the chair shall be adopted. Is there any objections? Okay, seeing and hearing none, without objection, the recommendation is adopted. Thank you, Chloe. Thank you. So move to next agenda item. District Action Plan Annual Report for 2024-2025. Before the committee is the District Action Plan Annual Report for 2024-2025. It's here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Program and Equitable Outcome, Kate Dyke and Neil Ganathan, CFO, and Vidya Maharaj, Coordinating Superintendent of Education for Curriculum and Instructional Services and Continuing Education, Julian Gibbon, Equity Inclusive School and Committee Services, Research and Assessment Services, Loris Aga, Student Services and Wellbeing, Wendy Hall, and Human Resources Services, People and Culture, Stephen Garner, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I'll begin. Today's presentation brings forward the District Action Annual Report for the 2024 and 2025 school year. This report is part of the board's formal accountability cycle and is designed to support trustees in their governance role by providing clear evidence of the progress against the 3 priorities of the board's multi-year strategic plan: student achievement, health and well-being, and human rights and inclusive education. The data and system actions being shared reflect the full 24-25 school year and establish the baseline for how we will monitor progress during the 25-26 school year. This report is evidence-based picture of how the system is supporting students across learning, engagement, and equity, and where we must continue to focus on improvement efforts. So with that, the next slide, please. On this slide, this report is organized around the 3 provincial mandated student achievement plan priorities, which are also fully aligned with the board's multi-year strategic plan. First, we will look at the achievement of learning outcomes in core academic skills. Second, we will examine how well students are being prepared for future success through graduation, credit accumulation, STEM participation, and job skill programs. Third, we will look at indicators of student engagement and well-being, including attendance, suspension, awareness of mental health supports. Finally, we will move into system actions which explain what the board is doing to support these outcomes. These structures allow trustees to see not only what the data says, but how the system is responding to that. The next slide, please. This slide summarizes how students performed on EQAO in literacy and mathematics in 2024-25. So across grades 3, 6, and 9, and 10, YRDSB students continue to outperform the provincial average in reading, writing, and mathematics. Compared to the previous year, achievement improved for all students and for students with special education needs. For multilingual language learners, results showed both gains and declines, depending on the grade and the subject, which signals the importance of continued target support. What is important for trustees to note is that this performance is not happening in isolation. It reflects sustained system investment in early reading, literacy, networks, math instruction, and differentiated support, which are all described later in the system action section. The next slide, please. This slide looks beyond the test scores to whether students are being positioned for a successful pathway after secondary school. Graduation rates remain high and stable for all students, including multilingual language learners and students with special education needs. Credit accumulation, which measures whether students have earned 16 credits by the end of grade 10, also remains strong overall, with improvement for students with special education needs and a slight decline in multi-language learner students. Participation in senior mathematics and science courses increased for all groups, which is a strong indicator of the academic confidence and post-secondary readiness. Participation in job skills programs such as SHISM, OYAP, dual credit also increased across all groups. Together, these indicators show more students are accessing both academic and applied pathways that support long-term success. The next slide, please. Engagement and well-being are essential conditions for learning. Attendance patterns show a system-wide decline in the percentage of students attending more than 90% of the time, which mirrors provincial and national trends following the pandemic. It is notable, however, that attendance improved for elementary students with special education needs. Suspension rates declined across all groups, including multilingual language learners and students with special education needs, which reflects the impact of restorative and trauma-informed approaches being implemented across the system. Awareness of mental health supports increased for most groups, except for the grade 10 students with special education needs, which remains an area of continued focus. This indicator tells us that while attendance remains a challenge, schools are safer, supportive places for students. And with that, I will turn the next slide over to Jillian.
Thank you. So on this slide, we're looking at the supports we put in place for student achievement. So in 24-25 school year, we rolled out the early reading screening process for the first time across the whole board. So school teams were supported with the effective use of a variety of assessment tools, including the new early reading screening tool, and how that assessment data could be used to inform a tiered approach to instruction that was responsive to the needs of the students in our classrooms. The digital literacy team ran after-school professional learning on digital media literacy as part of the A2 strand in the language curriculum, and on the impact of artificial intelligence in our classrooms. The math team focused their professional learning on equitable assessment practices, high-impact instructional practices, and the use of learning through problem solving. Throughout all our professional learning series, the use of the YRDSB developed document Understanding How Processing Affects Learning, or our waterfall document, was used to expand teacher knowledge on how to support all the students in their classrooms.
Thank you. This portion speaks to the health and well-being system supports. First released in 2022, our mental health and addiction strategy is in its final year of implementation. As part of PPM 169, it is a requirement for all boards to have a mental health and addiction strategy. We are in the process of beginning to refresh that for the upcoming school years. But last year, we were able to focus on continuing completion of some of the actions that were outlined in that mental health and addiction strategy. We also wanted to highlight our ability and our work in promoting student mental health and well-being in every school. Every school has a mental health liaison who helps support our central mental health team in delivering mental health lessons in our classrooms and schools. And finally, supporting student mental health as part of our work through our central mental health team, our youth space, which is a student-generated, student-nominated grade 6 to 12 opportunity for students to center mental health and well-being in their schools and promote health and well-being activities. And with that, I turn it back to Coordinating Superintendent Lois Agard.
Thank you, Wendy. And as it relates to human rights and inclusive education supports, I just wanted to highlight that this slide shows system-level investment that ensures inclusive education, identity, and human rights are embedded in student success. Indigenous student advisors support over 100 students and families, nearly 50 schools, and more than 300 community members through cultural and academic engagement. The graduation coaches for Black students supported over 225 students across all secondary schools, providing culture responsive guidance that directly supported credit accumulation and graduation. The Inclusive School and Community Services consultants provided scheduled in-school professional learning focused on inclusive planning, instruction, and assessment aligned with each school's improvement plan. These are not isolated initiatives, they are structural supports that ensure inclusive education and human rights are part of everyday teaching and leadership practices across the system. Next slide, please. And so with that, thank you for hearing our report, and we welcome questions at this point.
Yeah, thank you for staff to providing the report. So trustees, are there any questions? Okay, so Trustee Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, what specific mental health problems are most serious for our students in 2024-25? Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. That it would be a it depends answer, but one of the things that we are focusing on is what the students are bringing forward. And one of the things that they are bringing forward is social media and the impact of cell phones in schools and vaping and the impact that that has on their mental health. So we've been supporting schools and building resources for that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other trustees? Okay, so the chair recognizes Trustee Butterworth.
Thank you. Just a question. I've been recently reading the Dreams Delayed report, and I realized that this report on dismantling, or the Davers report, can you tell me if from that report, Dreams Delayed, have we used anything from that report in terms of recommendations for our report on dismantling anti-Black racism? Is there, obviously there's going to be an overlap, but I'm just curious how they connect. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And prior to the Dreams Delay report being released earlier this year in March, we've had a long-standing strategy that has been informed by community organizations and well-researched and so forth. And there is a correlation between the work that we are doing in the board and what has been identified with Dreams Delayed, as well as when any documents are made, the staff do their best to read and ensure that these documents, especially when they're coming from Ontario Human Rights, that our practices are in line with that. So the essence of Dreams Delayed is filtered through all of the work that we do. Thank you.
You know, I was just curious because I realized I realized last March, but that's still a short period of time when you look at all of the data and so on that you are collecting and all the work that you are doing. So maybe I'm looking at going forward, then are we taking things from it, picking things that totally sort of connect with us? I'm sure that answer is yes, but can you expand a little bit on that as well, please?
Thank you for that. And within our Dismantling Anti-Black Racism strategy, we have key performance indicators that we're working to reach. So as well as a part of our research and informing our research, the Dreams Delayed document could support areas for us if there are gaps in what we're trying to do. And if we needed to then, ensure that our practices are in line with what the ministry through the Ontario Human Rights has dictated as something that we work on. So there is alignment.
Yeah, thank you. So the chair recognizes Trustee Ron Lin to ask question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, staff, for the report. I just first of all want to say, well done. We are focusing on our core business on the student achievement, well-being, and inclusive education. Overall, the figures looks positive. Despite that, we always can do better. I have one question on page 48 of 111. We talk about the grade 10, the credit accumulation rate. I understand that there are a slight decrease in the MLL. I'm just wondering, is that the reason why? And my guess is, do we have a change of demographics in the MLL student? The language speaking, and what could be the barrier for our MLL student, and the resource that we are providing, is it similar to the current year versus the last year? I just want to have that clarification. Overall, I see the MLL have succession as well as the SEN, but I just want to ask specifically on the MLL part. Thank you.
So thank you for that question, and through you, Chair Liang. So the credit accumulation for MLL is slightly lower than population. In some cases, it may be because they have chosen to take support courses or go a little bit slower in their acquisition, so that until their English language skills have caught up, they may be taking a slightly lower course load, and so it shows up this way. It also, for us, we've had an increase in the last couple of years of students who identify as MLLs as borders opened after COVID. And so in some cases where these kids might have come at an earlier age and had been with us for a little bit longer, they were delayed in coming to, and so it's showing up in a lot of our data that we have far more kids at earlier steps and versus sort of more spread out, which we would normally have had. So it is resulting in a little bit of a change here, but it is something that we keep an eye on, because we do know that over time they catch up, and in many cases, I think you see later on, they exceed the performance of our native-born community.
Thank you. As a follow-up, yes, I am seeing that they are more student overall increased enrollment in the STEM program, of course, for their future success. Thank you for that. And I think with this a slight decrease, I think I just want to emphasize that we continue, as you mentioned, that we're going to continue to monitor this strongly and providing the necessary support because we want to make sure like all students are able to succeed. But overall, it is positive. Thank you very much, and I will ask my question later on. Thank you.
Okay, so the chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask question.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the EQAO results, Apparently, great news that we outperform the provincial average in key literacy areas, reading and writing, and mathematics. So I was just wondering, how much above the provincial average are we? And what do we excel in more, literacy or mathematics? Thank you.
Sorry, I need to grab my data on that information. Okay, thank you. So in grade 3, the EQAO, so we outperform the province by 3%. And in reading, in writing, it is 5%, and in mathematics, it is 8%. For grade 6, we outperform the province by 5%. In reading, in writing, it is 5%, and in math, it is 14%. And then this is grade 9 math, and literacy grade 9 is 24%, and then literacy is 7%, and that's for first-time eligible writers. Sorry.
That's great. Thank you so much.
So the chair recognizes Trustee Chen to ask question.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is not a question, but more of a word of appreciation, especially when I hear about all the activities that we've done under the Human Rights Inclusive Education. I have to say that over the past years, attending events and also, reading all this news updates, I really come to appreciation for everything that we've done through the inclusive schools and also the community activities that we've delivered collectively. I remember talking to some principals after events, and I always like to say that, so let's go for next year. And you can see that sweat on their head. I know it's volunteer hours for everyone, but I truly appreciate the time and effort all the administrators and teachers pour in. Those are volunteers' hours. They could choose to do something else, but they choose to offer their time to their communities, to the students, to the families in our schools. And I truly believe that's the foundation of education. We collectively bring together the students, regardless of where they come from, the language they speak, but when that community forms, that's when students are not afraid to come to school. They're happy to come to school, and they're willing to learn, and all this start building up. So I'm really thankful for everything that we've done, and thank you for the leadership again. And so continue the good work. I know it's never ending, and we feel like we're repeating ourselves, but really just find a way to renew ourselves and to rejuvenate our hearts. I think that's very important. Well, so thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. Any other trustees? Yeah, Trustee Lin.
Okay, thank you. Well, how to follow Trustee Chen? I'm going to ask questions. So we have this report annually to monitor our work, so thank you very much. Compare the provincial benchmark and the board benchmark. Surely, yes, 100%, we are performing above as a system. I also want to point out some underlying continued work that is required is that we have a multiple municipality within our region. It's a very diverse region, so we have this conversation on previous public meeting that we want to make sure that all students from all regions are able to succeed. So continue on that. And when you look at the provincial indicator, obviously the three pillar, reading, writing, and math. I'm not concerned about the reading and the writing. Given the fact that our math is above the provincial average, I think we should not just stop where we are in terms of the math, because Is it my ghost? Okay. Trustee Chen, you may.
So Trustee Jenny, can you mute your phone?
So just want to continue to provide the support to all the students that we require. We know that the math is a challenge. It's compared to the province, it's good, but compared to the history, it's not necessarily the best to all the students in the jurisdiction. So I want to commend the team on the great work, but we have Superintendent Lau here as our math lead, which is much appreciated for the strong work, but we will continue to enhance our math because every student needs certain of those to be in the future workforce. I also want to recognize that even in this report that we are, from all the parent council, that we are writing guidelines to support students using artificial intelligence for students, for parents, and for educators to assist our kids to learn better, right? So I just want to give that comment to the entire team and appreciate the work.
Yeah, thank you. And then any other trustees? Okay, seeing and hearing none, so we move to next agenda item. So York Region District School Board dismantling anti-Black racism strategic annual report, year 4, 2024-2025. Before the committee is the York Region District School Board dismantling anti-Black racism strategic plan annual strategic annual report, year 4, 2024-2025 report is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director K. Daiq, Coordinating Superintendent Loris Aga, so Gillian Gibbon and Wendy Hall to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's presentation is the 4th year annual report for the Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy. This work began in 2021 because Black students, families, and staff told us clearly that the system was not working for them in the same ways it was working for others. 4 years into this strategy, we hold ourselves accountable for changing outcomes. Next slide, please. I will walk you through 4 things. First, how the strategy is structured and how we hold ourselves accountable. Second, the 6 foci of continuous improvement areas that guide the work. Third, what we did in year 4 and what impact it had. And finally, what we are committing to in year 5. And this is meant to show both progress and where we still need to improve our work. The next slide, please. DABRS is a 5-year strategy, as I mentioned, launched in March 2021. Year 4 is important because it allows us to look not just at individual projects, but at cumulative impact. Some things are improving, some gaps remain, and this report speaks to both. Next slide, please. This slide shows the outline of our work. We track 35 priority actions, use KPIs, key performance indicators, and show short-term outcomes, report regularly to you, the trustees, and the public, and stay connected to community through the steering committee. Making this work visible, measurable, and accountable at every level of the system. Next slide, please. When we look at race-based data, we are not judging students, we are judging the system. If Black students are overrepresented in suspensions or underrepresented in programming, that reflects how the system is structured, not who those students are. This lens keeps us focused on fixing the system and not blaming individuals. Next slide, please. The strategy has evolved. We started with 7 priorities, moved to 3 foci areas, and now work through 6 foci. What has never changed is the work is driven by community voice and by data. In year 4, we intentionally balanced dismantling systemic barriers with provided direct programs that protect and support Black students while the system changes. The next slide. This slide shows the 6 areas that reflect the real ways Black students experience schools, from early years to gifted, to discipline, to post-secondary access, to community connection. None of these exist in isolation. We have to move all of them together if we want to change outcomes in a lasting way. And then the next slide, this wheel shows how all 6 foci areas connect back to community voice. This is intentional. The strategy is not driven by what is convenient for the system, but by what the families and students tell us matters most. And then the next slide is an opportunity to look closer at the various foci areas. So we strengthen family and community connections and ran programs that affirm identity and support learning. The credit attainment program helped 86% of students during that year and 96% of the students in the summer program. Y2 Legacy had 95% of the students achieving levels 3 and 4. These are academics results that came from identity affirming spaces. And the next slide just shows some of the parent voice. So these quotes matter because they tell us how the work feels on the ground. Families are telling us their children feel safe, seen, and motivated in ways that they did not before. That emotional safety, as we heard before, is what allows learning to happen. The next slide, please. Looking at another foci area, Black students are still overrepresented in special education and underrepresented in gifted. That is why we are piloting a new gifted screening program in 21 schools. The goal is not to change standards, it is to remove bias from how we identify potential. The next slide, please. Specialty programs. In early years, we reviewed how students enter arts, French immersion, IB, and AP. We made information more public, supported families in navigating choices, and trained early years educators on race and identity. Some gaps remain, especially as it relates to IB and AP. So for year 5, we will continue our focus on elementary pathways. The next slide, please. All superintendents and administrators receive learning on anti-Black racism using the traffic light tool and Sankofa resources. This is about helping leaders recognize when curriculum, instruction, or practice is causing harm, even when it's not intentional. The next slide, please. Graduation rates for Black students are high, but they are still less likely to go to university and more likely not to apply at all. That is why we built stronger transitions, guidance collaboration, and community partnerships. We are slowly closing gaps, but the work is still not done, and we continue on that journey. The next slide, please. With 4 graduation coaches, they supported 225 students in every secondary school. They built 36 community partnerships and worked with over 100 families. This is about relationship, not just credits. The data shows increased engagement, attendance, and post-secondary applications. And the next slide shares how students and families felt about that support. Students felt supported, parents felt someone was walking alongside with their students. That sense of care is what keeps young people connected to school. The next slide, please. We reviewed discipline guidelines, created a flow chart for suspensions, piloted restorative practices, and revised the student incident guide. Black students are slightly less overrepresented in suspensions than last year, but secondary disproportionality remains. That tells us that we are moving, but still need to continue on that journey. And the next slide, please. These events, so this slide speaks to the various events that we've had throughout the year. These events are not just about celebrations, they are how families get information, how students build community, and how Black excellence is made visible. Students tell us these spaces help them feel less alone. And with that, I'll ask if we can share a video on actually a celebration that we just had in December.
Right now we're at Bill Hogarth Secondary School and we are here for the Kwanzaa event.
Here we are celebrating this fantastic event we call Kwanzaa and just spending some time together as a community.
The activities we engaged in were a drumming session and cornbread making. It was really fun to bake with everybody because I got to bake with my family and my friends, and it was really fun to just have everybody collectively bake together. And in between those sessions were also a little bit of information about Kwanzaa and celebrations.
There's lots of families and lots of students. I see kids from, looks like kindergarten, right up to the high school age. So there's a real feeling of fellowship. It's really nice.
Kwanzaa is an African American holiday rooted in 7 powerful principles.
I particularly like the one of the 7 principles, that is umoja, which means oneness. That oneness, when communities come together to celebrate each other, it's powerful. And I love that YRDSB is doing this for this community right now.
Personally, my favorite activity was making the cornbread because I like to cook and learn about food.
I found it really fun to make and really familiar.
My personal favorite activity was drumming because it really taught us the importance of how music and culture come together.
I really enjoyed the food and also all of the welcoming people here that supported us today.
This is personally my first Kwanzaa experience, but it won't be my last.
I feel like it's important for our school to host these type of events to bring the Black community in this area together, and that we're able to relate to something on a deeper level with our spirits.
Thank you, and you can see that was a joyous event, and we left with our tummies full, so thank you. The next slide, in regards to hiring. We continue to train hiring managers, collect identity data, and support racialized leadership. Representation has remained stable, with some gains in French and secondary OT hiring. We know we need more targeted outreach, we know we need more targeted outreach to the Black community, and that is the work that HR continues to do. The next slide, please. These are just 2 examples, one elementary and one secondary, to show what is possible within our schools and how BSA's families and staff are working together. Students build leadership, confidence, and academic focus when their identities are affirmed. And again, it is a clear marker that in the York Region District School Board, we are honoring supporting Black identities. The next slide is just a bit of a looking ahead to our 5-year. Year 5 is about collaboration across foci groups, stronger community reporting, continued graduation support, and more credit opportunities. We're moving from pilot to system change. And with that, we've already, with this year, had a remarkable opportunity to do some cross collaboration. I will save that for my next report, but it has been fabulous work, and I look forward to sharing that with you. The next slide. So looking ahead, year 5, more collaboration. Oh, sorry. We will release I spoke to the elements on this slide, so I'll just, you can skip to the next slide, please, sorry. Oh, okay, so I do have one more thing I want to say, if you can go back to the last slide, sorry. Combined it, I didn't realize. So we released a revised student incident guide. We piloted gifted screening, review elementary pathways, and hosted a specialty program symposium. And these are concrete steps in that direction, and to what I spoke to earlier in regards to the work that we're continuing to do. So we look forward to sharing those opportunities with you in the next report. And then the next slide is just questions that you may have about things that occurred 2024 to 2025.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the staff for providing this report. So any trustee have any questions? So Trustee Cohen, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So it makes me sad to think that Black students are underrepresented in gifted programs. So I'm wondering, how are students generally recommended to be in the gifted program? And how are they identified after they're recommended to be in the gifted program? Like, how is that happening that they're underrepresented? I'm just not sure the core of it. So maybe I misunderstood, but if you could just share, that
Yes,
would
no,
be
thank you, and through you, Chair. In York Region, all of our grade 3 students are screened for giftedness. Part of the pilot that Coordinating Superintendent Agard is referring to is looking at that screening process and the screener that we have used historically, and doing some partnering with research to see if using a different screener does generate different outcomes. Additionally, we have students who come to us outside of grade 3 who might come to us with an assessment of giftedness from another school board, from a psychologist, and so they can enter gifted programming at any grade after grade 4 moving forward. But for us, we do screen all of our grade 3 students.
Yeah. Yes.
So they're underrepresented because, what do you think? Is it our screening processes maybe needs to be looked at again? We're asking the wrong questions on the tests, or what are we not speaking to? I don't understand.
So thank you very much, and through you, that is what we are doing right now in this pilot and working with research to help us try to understand what those barriers might be, so that we can then look at how we are going to address them. So we are doing that pilot in partnership with research so that we are making data-driven decisions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So the chair recognizes Trustee Butterworth to ask question.
Thank you, and I apologize. I probably should have asked my last question for this, but you said something in your last presentation on the district action plan which triggered my question. So I'm going back to the dreams delayed thing again. And now that I can, focus specifically on from your last presentation. So in the dreams delayed, there's a whole section on some things that have to be implemented, like the responsibilities for school boards and schools and trustees. And so just looking at the trustee piece, and I had to call it up because I won't remember it, we play a critical role in upholding human rights and ensuring that anti-Black racism initiatives are meaningfully implemented within their boards. And we have a duty to support our duty holders, as they're calling you, including school boards, educators, and administrators, in advancing human rights work. And we need to take an active leadership role. I won't read the whole thing, but my question is, how can we further support the work that is being done? Because this is a really comprehensive report. I look at this report like I look at the Right to Read report, same impact. So what then, because I mean, you've done tons of work, there's lots of great things going on, but there's obviously work that still needs to be done. So we need to be held accountable for, what we're doing, and to ensure that we, are fostering a discrimination and harassment-free education system. So what do you see that still needs to be done? That's a big question, I know. Thank you.
But it's a good question, so thank you for it. And I will say that the Dreams Delayed report, there is work that we are currently doing in our board that significantly supports what's in that report, and specifically as well as not only holding trustees and school leadership accountable, but also making sure that you center community voice. And one of the things we have, in fact, that meeting is tomorrow, is York Region we have a Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Steering Committee that is co-chaired, which is also a unique experience by community members. And so the community members set the agenda, they get to review the data, and they continually get to tell us if we are doing the work in the right way as they would see fit. Part of that steering committee, there is opportunity where they will share their concerns, and there are trustee representatives on that community. So it's a great way for us to check where we can then look at what we're working on, and then to see how community feels that is meeting their needs. I will say that we regularly meet and share with the co-chairs and the larger committee, which consists of all of the community organizations in York Region across all municipalities. And so we get to hear that cross section, whether it is from Anchor out in the west, YRAC, MACA out in the east, NACA or ABC in the north. And so we do get that comprehensive, fulsome understanding. And then the community gets to share with us if we're on the right track. So going back to the Dreams Delayed report, it speaks to hearing and centering community voice in that work. And York Region has a really masterful way in how we're ensuring that community stays center and at the core of our work. It's a humbling experience sometimes, but one we greatly appreciate because they continue to let us know if we're doing the right things.
Okay, any other trustee have any questions? So the chair recognizes Trustee Lin to ask questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, staff. We come a long way from 2021 to now. This ministry initiative and also our own board recognition on this, Deborah, is no easy work, but we are going to continue to do that. We want to appreciate the improvement that we've been doing. For myself, reflecting on the 25, I have had opportunity to visit multiple schools during the hour, multiple schools during the summer to visit some of the specific identity affirming related camp support learning session with the Black student, and I think that is also a humbling experience. I commend the team, so we will continue to work on this. I don't come to Lucy often, but seeing the report is a good experience, and we continue to support our Black student and our student body together. So I just want to say thank you very much, and thanks, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. So any other trustee? Okay, so seeing and hearing none, so we move to date of the next meeting. So the next Learning Equity Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting is on February 10, 2026. So adjournment, as there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.